is going on to all my Outer Range fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again, breaking down episode 4, which was titled The Loss, an episode in which we see the Abbott family just keeps on lying, even little Amy. We also get the introduction to Wayne's wife, Patricia, and speaking of Wayne, he gets reunited with his void. We're breaking that down and so much more in today's spoiler review. But before we get into the discussion, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel and love early movie reviews, TV breakdowns, and live streams, well, come and join the community today by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you all can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed this spoiler review of episode 4 of Outer Range, well, make sure you're liking the review. Let's get this to 200 plus likes and also share the review. But more importantly, I want to know your thoughts on this episode, your favorite moments, your thoughts, your theories, and predictions about everything we got in this episode, and of course what you hope to see in the future of this show. And also, I just want to remind you all, I did a separate review of my thoughts on episode 3, so go ahead and check that video out if you haven't. But we're here to talk about episode 4, and listen, I'm really enjoying this show. The mystery box, the performances speak for themselves, but in particularly Josh Brolin, he can read and tell me any story, and I'm going to believe him. Royal is definitely a scam artist, no less, and also Wayne and Patricia and all the stuff of the void. There's so much to break down, but let's start the conversation in the comment section. Let's get into the spoilers as we open the episode with 9 months ago, as we see that one of Wayne, what appears to be one of his workers on the land, comes to him with a rock, and we see Wayne say, that's just a rock. What do I need with a rock? He shows him the inside of the rock, and this is where we see the inside of the rock having these little tiny particles moving within, and we see the man asks Wayne, have you seen this before, boss? And he says, yes, when I was a little boy, which brings me to my video I did in episode 3 when I speculated, I wonder if he maybe came across the void when he was a child. Well, it is confirmed in this scene here, and it makes you wonder, did he jump in there, go to the future? I speculated he got information, very Back to the Future 2 type of situation. He got information, used the information from the future to get his wealth. Let me know your thoughts on that. Or maybe we don't know the full situation of the void. Maybe he went back to the past. Let me know your thoughts on Wayne and his void, and we'll talk about him being reunited with it at the end of this video. But moving on to the present timeline, and this is where Joy is going to Trevor's body, and she asks one of her deputies, hey, how long was Royal in my office when he was there? He said, oh, maybe 10 minutes. She's starting to put the pieces together that Royal may have had something to do with that missing belt buckle. But speaking of Royal, she makes her way to the land, and this is where she finds the body, but in particularly, it's time to interview the Abbott family, even little Amy herself, as we get into the scene here, watching, which one of the things I noticed right away, seeing Royal and Cece, as he calls her, Cecilia, trying to, be coy and try to be friendly. Oh, do you want some banana bread? And we see that Joy says no because she's allergic. She can have allergic reactions to banana bread. She could probably die. Keep that in mind. I think that's not a throwaway line. I wouldn't be surprised, especially learning more about what they're willing to do to protect their family. I can see a banana bread or banana some way making it into Joy's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and it being the Abbott family being responsible and poisoning her. I don't know. I might be speculating there. Let me know your thoughts on that line. But we get into the conversation, and the quote I have for you all, a family that lies together gets caught together, because we see little Amy, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree as she goes ahead and lies for her family in regards to the whereabouts of her grandfather. But unfortunately, little Amy doesn't read the room entirely, as she kind of slips up and says she doesn't know where her Uncle Rhett was. And this is where you see Joy. It reminds me so much of like Fargo, where they have like the really smart, like the nice deputies in town, but they're very smart. They know how to read a room. They know how to play like kind of dumb, like, oh, like she's playing it as if she doesn't know what's going on, but she can tell there's a lot of lies going on in this interview, as we cut to Perry getting that look from his dad, and the look is like, hey, Perry, go ahead and make something up. As we see Perry goes to Joy and say, hey, my brother was with, someone that night, and I don't know what girl it was, but again, the lies on top of lies, and I'm seeing Joy, she's just like, I'm gonna catch you all in one of these lies, and she gets on her job in this episode. As we go to Royal is walking bring Joy back to her truck, and this is where Joy asks him, did you take something from our office? And we know he's a pretty good liar. He just says, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. I hope you find what you're looking for. And it's in this conversation, too, that she mentions flying saucers, and that's obviously aliens. My theory about if aliens are playing to the story, is it Greek mythology? Is it both of those two things being into the show? I'm thinking there might be some type of, if you all seen Denis Villeneuve's Arrival, which is a fantastic film, very emotional, great film, but it has to do with time travel. I wonder if we're dealing with a similar plot in regards to the aliens placing this void on Earth and testing the humans on what they would do with these type of abilities. Let me know your thoughts on that as we go to the moment here, which I absolutely love. Time to call your brother, as we see Perry attempts to call Rhett and fill him in on the story that he just gave Roy, or I should say Joy. We see Joy calls, I believe his name was Matt, and says, hey, I need you to find Rhett, and I need you to not have him answer his phone. Listen, the tension in this scene was absolutely fantastic as we see Rhett is trying to pay a visit to Marie at the bank, and he is ignoring the phone calls. He sees the call coming in. We see Matt saying, I'm going to need you not to answer the phone. Again, I'm just like, is he going to do it? Is he not? He ultimately does answer the phone. He gets the information from his brother to lie about his whereabouts. And speaking of lies, I did not see this coming. As we see, Maria takes the fall and she says he was with me that night. I'm like, the lies are just spreading to everyone in this show. The Abbott family has a bad influence on the good-hearted people in this town. That caught me by surprise, but she goes back on her lie a little bit later. Let me know if you all were just as shocked, and what did you all think about the tension that was created in that scene. I thought it was fantastic. As we see more of singing from Billy, and I love these like solo moments when he gets to sing. I think it's like a running joke at this point. I always look forward to him singing some type of solo, but unfortunately this is where they get the news that his brother has died, and we see Wayne crying in, like, I don't know, looks like buffalo coat, and as he's looking at one of his trophy of the buffalo's head, and he's very emotional at this point. Let me know if you all kind of feel bad for them at that moment. As we go to Perry and Autumn, Perry pays a visit to Autumn and he asks her about did you know about Trevor, which is like, he's trying to play coy, like obviously your dad took care of the body, but he's, he doesn't know that obviously Autumn and his dad have been in communication, and she knows more than he actually knows. But this was a very interesting conversation here as she asks him for a picture of his wife. He gives it to her and she looks at the picture almost as if she's seen Rebecca, which brings me back to my thoughts last week. I think she knows something about Rebecca, if she's alive, if she's dead. Let me know where you all are at right now with Rebecca, and I have a theory I'm going to share with you all a little bit later in this review. But moving on to our next conversation, as Royal keeps what he knows close to the vest when it comes to him talking to his wife Cecilia, or say Cece, as they're having a conversation, and I just love the dynamic between Josh Brolin and Lili Taylor in this scene, because she just goes and just confides in him like, I have dealt with your shit for 30 years, Royal. You give me the silent treatment. I've been there for the injuries, the kids, Rebecca going missing, which we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. What other lies has she kept from her family, from other people? But I think by the end of the show, man, she's going to come up to her ends meet. She's just going to be fed up with Royal. As we know from episode 2, he's been dead for 2 years. I wonder who killed Roy. Was it his wife himself? I don't know, but I just love that scene between those two. Let me know what you all thought about the dynamic. As we go to Joy is on the case. She starts to question Marie, and she's pressing her like, hey, if you don't tell me the truth, there are some serious circumstances and consequences for you lying. She ultimately, when we don't know, because they cut the scene and we don't know if she told the truth or if she, kept the lie going. We'll talk about that here in a second. But cut between those two scenes, this is where we see Royal. He finds the rock on his land where they found Trevor's body. He's cutting up that rock, and he's starting to think, this looks very similar to that rock that's on Autumn's neck, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. But we cut to Perry receiving a call from Red as Joy has him in the questioning, and it's time to get their story straight. And I love them cutting between what happened that night, and we see Joy is working Red, she's working his older brother and Perry, and they're getting their stories all mixed up. I have to say, listen, Roy, Royal, you got your boys trained to lie, but you got to get your story straight. They were just going back and forth, and there's so many holes in their story as their lawyer walks in, and this is where the damage has been done. We see the brothers are kind of at beef right now in confrontation because we see Rat comes up to his brother and say, hey, I saw you threw me under the bus there. I see what you're doing here. Don't mess all this up. But then I start to think, because we see, and let's have this conversation, we see Royal talking to Perry about keeping his story straight, keeping his brother safe. My question is, we got to talk about Perry's aggression and his temper. I'm starting to think Tom Pelphrey as Perry, what if he has something to do with his wife missing? What if the Abbott family is covering up for the son who, this isn't his first time killing someone. Maybe he has something to do with his wife dying. And I mentioned in my review last week, maybe if it is to be true that she slept with one of the sons, the Tillerson son, whether it was Luke or Trevor or Billy himself, and he found out about it and he took it upon himself to handle his anger in killing his wife. Again, I know he's the victim as far as missing wife, and he's putting up a good front. You know, he does come from a family of lies. I might be way off on that theory, but let me know your thoughts on all that. But interesting line of dialogue here as we see Royal asks what he can do for Rhett. And we see Rhett tell him, Dad, I wish you can take time back or go back in time, which makes me go back to the conversation. What are the capabilities of this void? We know you can go into the future, but can you go back in the past and can you change things? Let's discuss that in the comments. We go to what I speculated about in my review on episode 3. What happened to Wayne's wife? What happened to the boy's mom? Did she die? Did she leave? Will we get the introduction of Patricia as she returns home from unfortunately getting the news about her son dying? And Patricia, we learn about her. She is living in Aspen. She wanted to take the boys with her when they were younger, but this is where Wayne tells her this is their home. Wyoming is where they stay, where they live. And we know how important that land is to him. And he's probably seen some things of why they must stay home as far as, him maybe going to the future as a young boy. But it's in this scene where you can just tell the tension and animosity between those two, and they get into the fight and the discussion at hand about his obsession with this rock. And he goes ahead and starts singing to his ex-wife, or I think they're still married. She still has her his last name in an IMDb page, so maybe they're not fully divorced. But he's like, this is what I've been looking for. This can change everything. And she goes up to him and says, your hobby is killing you from the inside out, and I'm going to go ahead and just let you keep going at it. You're going to end up dying with all your crazy theories that you have here. So I love their conversation. I love this addition to Patricia. Let me know what you all think about that new character as we go to Roy paying a visit to the county assessor. Now we see Carl, who that's the name of the assessor. He's not budging when it comes to Royal trying to give him like, hey man, let's just drop this court. Help me out. I can help you out. I can get you acquainted with the land. And speaking of Carl, he's not that good of an individual. He's talking about all these Indians running around here and Kanye and Kim buying up homes. He seems like a pretty douchebag, if you ask me. Plus, he takes bribes for a living. But I love when we see Royal get up in his grill, get up in his face, and threaten him. He gives him a royal threat and tells him, where I'm going to toss you ain't going to be Fritos where I'm going to put you. I love that scene there, and Josh Brolin's just fantastic. But cutting back to Patricia, who's very tough and doesn't take any nonsense. She wants to stick around for the coroner's report, and she's just telling Joy that you guys are doing a terrible job at your job about finding my son. She eventually leaves the room, but I'm loving that Patricia character. I hope that she stays on for the rest of the season because I love all the stuff that she's bringing to the table. But we cut into the actual report here from the coroner, and this shows some very unanswered questions and a very interesting thing that's posed here. He finds out it's a clean situation. There's no drag marks. There's a clean hit to his neck, but more importantly, his body shows that he's been dead for just 10 hours, but we know that he's been missing for 8 days. So it just speaks to time works so differently when you're in the void. Let me know your thoughts on all that stuff that we got there. Now, I'm convinced at this point, Billy singing has to be a running joke as he's singing at his brother's funeral. But I think we need Billy singing in every single episode moving forward because it's just fantastic. But it's in this moment here as he's singing at his brother's funeral. Patricia looks. She opens the open casket because it's very smart on her. She looks at all the Abbott families and everyone's keeping their eye on his body. except for Perry. And by him turning his head, that gave him away. And we see Patricia tells Wayne, it was Perry that killed our son. Very smart and smooth move there from Patricia. Like I said, I'm a big fan of that character. As we cut to no law and order, just chaos. And again, I say it 1,000 times, I could listen to Josh Brolin read the phone book as he's talking to Joy about the chaos and all the circumstances around him, people drinking at the funeral, at the wake, I should say. And the monologue, the tone in which he tells the story was just, the delivery was fantastic in that scene. But we hear someone in the back room, and it's no other than Autumn making ends meet, taking everyone's money in a game of cards, and it is time to play cards between these two. I love how we see the poker face between these two characters. And I love this story as we see him talking about the story of the hooves and the devil, playing cards with the devil. He makes her take off her shoes, but notice he didn't take off his shoes, which makes me think about what I talked about in last week. I think there are some really sinister stuff that Royal has hidden from his family, from others. Again, I mentioned that I thought that he might have had something to do. I think he knows about Rebecca. And I think there's a lot more that Royal has done in the past, which speaks to him being the devil as the buffalo's head comes to the door. And there's some stakes at the table, ladies and gentlemen. He puts up his whole land just for that little rock on her neck. Who's the winner? Well, we see that Royal wins the game, but he had to cheat to do so, which again speaks to him being a liar, a cheater, getting rid of bodies. What other secrets does Royal have up his sleeve? Let me know what you all thought about that whole scene there. But before we actually move on, I want to touch on going back to, we didn't really talk about it in my last reviews in regards to the Greek mythology, the religion aspect of the show, but going back to the Greek mythology, what if we're seeing this whole story of Madea? And I'm not talking about Tyler Perry's Madea. I'm talking about the Greek mythology Madea, her story of everything that she went through, from revenge and power. I wonder if she is Madea in the story and she's seeking revenge on Royal from the past. Again, what timeline does she come from? If you all saw my last review, I think that she's the niece of Royal, but maybe she's not. Maybe she comes from another timeline and he did something bad to one of her family members, her mom or dad, brother and sister, and she's seeking revenge for what he did, hence to why she pushed him in that hole. Let me know if you all think that maybe Autumn is representing the character Madea from Greek mythology. Let's discuss that. As we move on to a sign for Wayne, we see Wayne spills his drink on the rock, and it's kind of a sign for him because he takes it upon himself to ride his truck to the land of the Abbotts main area. He comes across the void. He's happier than he can be. He's reunited with that void for the first time, and we don't know how long. In comes Royal. They get into a fight. He ultimately knocks him out. He's thinking at this point, he's thinking of maybe throwing Wayne in there and just saying, hey, we'll see where he lands. But we see Wayne wakes up. He takes his handy dandy rock, knocks our boy Royal over the head. He's laughing. He's excited. He drives away. He wins this round. But I think more importantly, he knows that that void is back and he's going to do everything in his power to get that land. So what a fantastic way to end the episode. Again, my question I have for you all, when does this void come about? Is it every so often? Is it every 10 years, every 30 years? Has Wayne gone into the void? Did he see the future to gain his wealth? Did he go back into the past to change things to gain his wealth? Let me know your thoughts there. Will Patricia actually get Perry to confess? And let's discuss everything going on with Autumn and Royal. Are there DNA blood connections? Has he did something to her in the past to make her be the Madea, as I mentioned in Greek mythology, to get her revenge? And of course, what's going on with the missing wife? Is Rebecca alive? Is she dead? Did Perry have something to do with it? Did Royal have something to do with it? Did she have affairs with one of the Tillman boys? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. Thank you all for watching this review. Again, if you haven't, go check out my review for episode 3, which will be in the link in the bio of this video. Appreciate you watching this review up to this point. Before you all leave, make sure you like the review, share it, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and come and join the community. Thank you for watching the review. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the family. Check out my previous reviews for this season. Check out my other content. We'll catch you all on the next breakdown.